everybody. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts on this Monday, this Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
Happy Cinco de Mayo to you.
Happy Cinco de Mayo to you today as well. And we're going to get into our bigger weather pattern coming up in a bit. You know, we've got kind of a mixed up Cinco de Mayo today.
Yes.
And some interesting days ahead for sure. But we had a very busy weekend, a lot of, high profile weather events.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to start with the Kentucky Derby. Did you watch it? I did. It only lasted a few minutes, right? Are you still wearing the hat? Did it get drenched? Hopefully not.
If you were there, it did.
Yes, it did. So this is actually video from Friday. So the Derby was on Thursday. Video from Friday, Louisville, Kentucky. So both days we're dealing with rain and thunder, but Friday's storms were severe, and they were, Churchill Downs, that is, evacuated because of some of these thunderstorms throughout both of those days. Now, the storms did eventually, as we just talked about, did eventually force people out of Churchill Downs, but thankfully the race went on Saturday. It was still very slippery. This is video, as you can see. I was just telling Rob before the show started, I was shocked that the horses could actually run in this mud, but they did.
I guess
and they did beautifully.
They're athletes. So.
It's just amazing to me, but this is what it looked like. And at the end of the race, it was just crazy to see how muddy both the horses and the jockeys were. I mean, not surprising when you look at some of that. We'll just call it.
Look at that, though. Working hard there to make it a feasible track, though. You got to give the track folks their due.
Right.
And there are the horses right there, jockeys and horses covered in mud. 151st Kentucky Derby, right?
Yes, and then the horse Sovereignty won.
Sovereignty.
They have some great names this year.
Cool name. Oh, look at the horses. They look fantastic. Kind of almost brought it to a new and a more interesting level in a way with the weather element thrown in, because you don't think about it as much. Recent years they've had some pretty good weather to the best of my memory.
Right.
And so with the muddy conditions thrown in there, I suppose that brought a whole new level of interest thrown in, at least from our meteorological point of view. All right, speaking of storms, let's go to New Jersey for Saturday. Some incredible video here, courtesy of our good friend over at Fox Weather at the Ari Sarazali, and these are just some incredible videos there. They got hit really hard with a downburst and some hail. The downburst itself had a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust. Wow. There's some pea-sized hail in this video taken at Flemington, New Jersey, and you can see the wind and look at the hail just piling up in the gutters there. The downspouts obviously probably packed with that as well. Small hail, but a lot of it. Right, it's like pea or maybe mothball-sized hail at largest, but a lot, and obviously really starting. Oh my goodness, the rain, the gutters, they just can't keep up.
Yeah, they're just completely clogged with ice.
What a mess. So we thank our friends over at Fox Weather for that. So if you've noticed a bit of a repetitive pattern lately to our weather, it has kind of been an interesting situation lately. You've probably seen it all over social media as well. There's good reason for this to be kind of over and over and over again pattern, and we'll get the latest on that as we get an explanation from Chief Meteorologist Tom Wachs.
Sometimes we get areas of low pressure that just sit around. They meander. They just don't move. So let's talk about a phenomenon in meteorology known as the cutoff low. This can be the dreaded cutoff low, or sometimes if we're really dry, it's a good thing for us, because here's what happens. We're at the jet stream level here, and the jet stream is a river of air at about 30,000 feet, so roughly airplane cruising altitude. And what the jet stream does is it blows storm systems across the country, and it also separates warm air to the south and cooler air to the north. Well, typically, the jet stream will bring progressive or moving storm systems throughout the country. But sometimes what happens, especially in the springtime, is we'll get these areas of low pressure that get cut off from the main jet stream flow. That's why we call it a cutoff low. So what exactly does that mean? Well, that means, like in this case, this area of low pressure just sits and it just rains and it's cloudy and it's dreary and it doesn't move. And it takes another storm system to come along and push it out of the way. So these cutoff lows, again, often happen in the springtime. They're more common in the springtime. And if you get caught under one of them, yeah, they can certainly bring quite a bit of rain. And it's just the cloudy, sort of dreary, steady rain type days. So if you ever get caught in that pattern, you'll know it because you'll have those clouds and the rain around, and you just have to wait until another storm system makes its way in to kind of kick that cutoff low out.
And happily for us, we've been on the very northwest edge of that because
Yes.
our friends down in, Kentucky, as we
Right.
saw, and Indiana, and, around the lower Great Lakes, like Ontario, Lake Erie, some parts of Ontario, Ohio, upstate New York, they've just been having day after day after day of rain and clouds. So we've just been getting a tiny taste of this.
Right, exactly. And it's not going to last for too much longer. It is finally going to push out as far as the low pressure goes.
And it pushes out in a very nice way.
It does.
All right, let's jump into the big picture.
Beautiful, beautiful weather ahead. Yes, exactly. So here is that low pressure system, as Tom was talking about. It is still in its same spot from yesterday, but we are gradually, very gradually going to see it pushing eastward even later today and into tomorrow. So as it does so, it is going to pull the western edge of this cloud cover away from southeast Wisconsin, or really eastern Wisconsin as a whole. That being said, today is still going to be a bit of a cloudier day, especially in eastern Wisconsin. Tomorrow we'll still have at least a little bit of cloud cover, but by Wednesday, we're looking much better. High pressure system is out west. We do kind of have a little bit of a blocking pattern here, which has kind of kept everything in its area as well. Heavy rain down in Texas from this low pressure system that's around the southwest. But with this storm system in our area, you can see it doesn't really look like much, but because of this counterclockwise rotation around the low, it is bringing in that northern edge of cloud cover and sprinkles still to central and southern Wisconsin, especially some of our lakeshore communities. But once it makes its way even a little more eastward, we'll see that sunshine returning to the area. Now, northern and western Wisconsin, at least west central Wisconsin, going to see a beautiful day today for the most part because they are just north of this storm system. You can see Green Bay to Milwaukee. We're the ones who have the clouds and still a few sprinkles from time to time, but where it's sunny right now, so northern Wisconsin as well as out west across the Dakotas, parts of those true Midwestern states, it is sunny and it is warm. We're talking already at this hour well into the 70s. So we will gradually see the sun here locally. Not going to warm up super quick because of the lake, of course, that's going to keep us cooler, but overall great conditions for the rest of the week. Heaviest rainfall across the U.S. right now is down towards the south, especially across portions of Texas. Looks like there's one severe thunderstorm warning there down towards the south. This rain is going to make its way into Oklahoma. Last week we touched on how much rain these parts of Texas and Oklahoma have already seen in the last couple of weeks, especially towards the end of April. So this is just additional rainfall, which bring additional flooding concerns to these areas. Everybody in green here, which extends all the way down to about Louisiana, under at least a flood watch. So there are flood headlines for some of this ongoing rain and thunderstorm activity and the potential for severe weather down in some of these southern states. You can see there is a severe threat down towards the south once again, and then also out towards the east. Not as big of a threat. That's with that cutoff low pressure system that's out there right now, and there is at least one severe thunderstorm ongoing in a handful of these areas, but it's not a huge severe threat. So somewhat good news there. That system will eventually make its way out over the water in the next couple of days. Where it is sunny out west, that is the true spot to be right now. That's where temperatures, as we just mentioned, are well into the 70s. So once we get that sunshine here, we're going to warm up as well. So this very slow moving system, even today, still going to bring cloud cover to Wisconsin. You can see the storms down towards the south across portions of especially Oklahoma and Texas, higher elevations of those four corner regions, especially Colorado, northern New Mexico, may even see a little bit of that rain snow mix. Now for Tuesday, you start to see that cloud cover mainly out east. So southern Wisconsin, we should start to see some sun, but that area of rain down south today impacting Oklahoma and Texas then starts to lift northward. But it's expected to stay south of us here in Wisconsin. So even Wednesday, aside from maybe a few clouds down towards the south, we're still looking good. We're still looking dry. And that is once again the start to a very sunny stretch through the rest of the week, potentially even into the weekend. Look at forecast highs today. You can clearly tell the spots that are going to see sunshine. Highs in the 70s and 80s across the Dakotas into parts of Minnesota and even northwestern Wisconsin, whereas those of us underneath that low pressure system going to be cooler in the 50s and 60s. Inland areas will see 60s today. Nothing to complain about. That's still very mild. 50s, though, near Lake Michigan. And of course, there's that warmth for places like Eau Claire and La Crosse, well into the 70s today. Closer look at southeast Wisconsin, that mix of 50s and 60s. We should at least start to see, a few peaks of sun from time to time today, but especially Milwaukee and the southern lakeshore, plan on more of that cloud cover sticking around. The warm-up continues, though. Here you go. Here's your temperature trend from here. Tuesday actually looks to be one of our warmer days. Even inland lakeshore communities, I should say, will be in the 60s. And then we'll cool just a bit with a lake breeze Wednesday, Thursday, but Friday and Saturday also looking pretty mild for this time of year. So it does get better after a gloomier start to the week.
Yeah, and then it kind of locks in, which is nice.
It does.
I like that. And everybody's been asking me the same thing. They've been like, oh, it's been really nice, but where's the heat? Where's the heat?
Right,
Where's the
exactly.
heat? So hopefully we'll start to get some
is the
of
week.
that heat. And of course, we're getting deeper into May, so it naturally warms up.
Yeah.
At some point, it's got to, right? We can't complain, of course, because we just saw some, other severe weather across the nation and now around the world. Hundreds of tourists had to evacuate an ancient city in Jordan. Look at this video here. Tourists left Petra Sunday after heavy rains caused these flash floods. The Jordan news agency says the evacuation and suspension of entry into the city was done kind of as a precautionary measure. Most of the 1,785 tourists who visited the area were forced to leave, though. They had to get everybody out of there and to safety. Jordanian authorities say no tourists were hurt. It's just amazing video from that part of the world. And then next we go to earthquakes, a little closer to home, a little closer to
Yeah, a
home.
little closer. Two separate earthquakes struck the United States over the weekend. So a magnitude 5.6 quake occurred on Sunday, May 4th at, let's say, just before 3 a.m. Eastern time. So this was located about 55 miles northeast of Cruz Bay in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So that's near Puerto Rico. You can actually see a few of those blue dots indicating at least some aftershocks as well. So a little bit in the way of activity near that area.
5.6 is a fairly decent shake there,
Yeah,
for sure.
it absolutely is. And now we're moving to Texas here. A second quake, 5.4 magnitude, occurred Saturday just before 8 o'clock local time in the evening near the Texas-New Mexico border. This was located about 55 miles south of Carlsbad, New Mexico. About 1,500 people said they felt it. But so far, no injuries, no damages, or at least no reports of that. So that's some good news there.
That's really good news for sure. Of course, we'll always keep you up to date with all of the latest earth science and active weather around the globe. Right now, not that active here at home, just a little bit of low cloud, and of course some high cloud too, keeping us rather gray. Still hoping for some afternoon sunshine. We'll be back with more Wisconsin weather experts in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. Well, we've entered May. As we know, it's Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May. May is the last month of meteorological spring, and our summer solstice just a little over 6 weeks away, which is so hard to believe. Our meteorologist, chief meteorologist that is, Rob Haswell, had the opportunity to sit down and chat with a few other meteorologists around the Great Lakes region to talk about how spring has been so far in our area and their areas, and what is to potentially come for the upcoming summer. Check it out.
All right, I want to thank you all for joining me. Our first inaugural meeting here. I've unofficially called this the ISO bar as we belly up to the weather bar and just kind of talk weather. Let's go around the Zoom room and just see who's who.
Hello, I'm Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls. I'm in Chicago and I'm with Fox 32. I have been here for about 3.5 years now. I'm originally from Michigan, so you're about to meet Rich, and I've been watching Rich for years. But yeah, I've been here for 3.5 years and loving the busy city.
Let's go over to Detroit, Rich.
I'm a Great Lakes guy through and through. My whole life, I've lived in and around the Great Lakes, and I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Let's go up, check in with Ian up in Minnesota.
Yeah, I've been in Minnesota for 20 years, and it's been a great ride so far. But people always ask me, why Minnesota? Why didn't you go somewhere warm? And I always say, because Minnesota has 4 big, deep, hard seasons that, for me and for the rest of us who joined the ISO bar today, that's something I think most of us crave or want or need.
I've been here for 20 years, and yeah, the big calling card for me as well was that 4 big, beautiful seasons that we get in full force. And that's kind of where we'll start our chat today, because here we are, kind of the midway point of meteorological spring. And we've had a very interesting spring for 2025 throughout the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest. I mean, for here in Wisconsin, a recent major hail event with tennis ball and baseball sized hail, which is a pretty uncommon event for south central, southeastern Wisconsin. But I wanted to ask you guys about some of the more major events in your markets. Ian, you're up. Why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, we've had I'll tell you, it's been a very benign spring. We didn't have much of a winter. We average about 54-ish inches of snow. We ended up about 20 below that. So, here, we're at the northern end of the farm belt, and farming is big, big, big in Minnesota. So anytime we get through a winter where we don't have a deep snowpack that we can rely on to slowly melt as the ground thaws, our thoughts always turn to the farmers, our farming friends. Thankfully, we've had plenty of rain. We had our first severe thunderstorm warning about 5 days ago. But other than that, incredibly benign. We're about average for rainfall. We're about average for sun. And it's been a lovely, quiet spring.
It has been a wet spring here in Wisconsin as well, which has been a good thing, because up until recently, we've been in a pretty significant drought. Now, I know, Emily, down in Chicago, also very wet conditions for you. How's your first half of spring been for you?
It's been soggy, but I will say in March, things were actually pretty nice as far as temperatures went. We had a lot of rain, but things were nice if you wanted to be out and about. We had temperatures that were actually well above average. We ended up seeing our 10th warmest spring in the Chicagoland area for March. And then right now in April, we're kind of half and half so far. So we've had definitely some cooler stretches. And then right now we're very much in a warm stretch. But when it comes to the stormy activity, we've been pretty active. So typically for this time of the year, we're getting several rounds of severe storms, and that's what we're seeing. But the tornado count, just like last year and the year before, we're right up there. We've already met our average for the year, and it's only April. So it's been busy here.
Been very, very active, and last spring was a very active one for you as well, as it was here in Wisconsin. I want to go to Rich, because of course this has been an interesting spring in northern Michigan and parts of northern Wisconsin as well for ice storms. It was quite the hit up in the UP in particular.
Big time. That event brought rain to the southern part of the state, so we missed out on all the ice, thankfully, but for Gaylord and Grayling, parts up near the Mackinac Bridge, into the UP, crippling ice storm a few weeks ago.
Now, Ian, as far as the ice, was that an impact at all in northern Minnesota? How'd that hit you?
Ice storm, ice for us is something that is so incredibly rare. We don't get that moderating effect of any lake like you all do, where you can get warm enough yet cold enough. Here I mean, I invite any of you to come here in January. I'd love to host you. It's not like where you live. It is brutally cold. It is dangerously cold. And I mean, you know that. And so we don't get a lot of ice storm mechanics set up here. We just don't have any moderation anywhere around us.
We did numerous stories over the course of the winter up in the northern parts of the state, Rhinelander, Eagle River. They just didn't have the cold and snow that they rely on for ice fishermen, for the snowmobilers, even pond hockey, the big classics up there in Eagle River, and they just really came up short.
And it's interesting because when you bring it up like that, you don't think about it. Minneapolis is 3.7 million. Chicago is more. Milwaukee, Detroit, big major metropolitan cities. There are some times that we just kind of go, "Oh, what do you mean? There's tourism? No, it's too cold out. There's snow and there's ice and the roads are terrible. What do you mean tourism?" But there is a big part of winter tourism here for all of our portions of the upper Midwest.
It's interesting because we talk about that in the northern and the snow drought. How did it impact your area, Emily? Like, do you think Chicago has the same weather reliant kind of tourism?
I think we are just living and breathing for spring, summer, and fall here in the Chicago area. Most people that are here are fine without the snow, but I think a lot of Chicagoans and just even the people that live in the suburbs, if you're going to enjoy winter, you're traveling north, you're going to Wisconsin, you're going up to the UP of Michigan. So there's not a ton of like winter sports that go on in the Chicagoland area. Everybody travels out of our area to all of you guys, really. They're, fishing out the snow. But more than anything, for us, it was more about just coming shy on the precipitation. So we were dealing with drought conditions as well, most of last year, most of the winter time as well. And we finally just, climbed out of that. So now the entire Chicagoland area, we're kind of where we should be when it comes to the precipitation. We're no longer considered to have a moderate drought. We're not abnormally dry. So we're in good shape there. But the lack of snow, that really made a big difference.
I want to thank all of you for your time today. I appreciate you helping me out with the first episode here of the ISO Bar. I think we had a great little chat, weather and all things included. Thanks, guys.
Oh, fantastic discussion right there. I hope we have plenty more. I know we have a part 2 coming at some point, so stay tuned for that. And hopefully this becomes a regular deal. Always very enlightening to see what, markets not too far from us are dealing with when it comes to weather, because we know how wacky Wisconsin is, right? So thank you, Rob, for that. All right, well, keeping with the May theme, this is our first full week of May, and this is a cool week. It highlights both weather as well as health. I know it sounds intriguing, right? Meteorologist Lisa Michaels has some information.
This week is Air Quality Awareness Week, and that goes from May 5th to the 9th. Now, the big question is, what is it? Well, this week is all about raising awareness about air quality importance, risks associated with pollution, and ways to improve air quality. The overall goal is to encourage people to take action to protect their health and the environment by reducing air pollution. Every day this week, we are going to educate you about air pollution, how it impacts us here locally in Wisconsin, what you can do if you are someone who's impacted by it, and ways that you are able to help reduce air pollution. So stay tuned every day this week.
Good stuff right there. A topic that is important to all of us, as we all know, and as we go through the summer. Here's a live look outside right now. We are stuck under the clouds, but sunshine is going to return eventually. We've got a little bit more to chat about after the break. Stay with us. welcome back, everybody. Today is Monday, May 5th, meaning it is Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, a day that a lot of people celebrate here. And the big thing, we're going to break into the history of it because a lot of people celebrate it across the United States. Cinco de Mayo, meaning the 5th of May in Spanish, is today. This celebrates the military victory during the French-Mexican War on May 5th of 1862. The holiday is more widely celebrated in the United States, especially in regions with significant Mexican-American populations. As a way to honor the culture and heritage, it's important to note that it is not the same as Mexican Independence Day. So if you're heading out, still looks to be a little cloudy, but dry. Will be cooler by the lake, dipping into the mid and low 50s, heading into dinner time and later tonight, while we'll hang on to the upper 50s to low 60s further inland.
Yes, hoping to clear out at least a little bit.
Yes.
A little bit of sun would be nice today, but if we don't
like
end up
that.
seeing it today, we will see it tomorrow.
Yes.
All right, live look outside right now. Thank you guys for joining us for another really great episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. We are going to talk plenty more tomorrow, especially about Air Quality Awareness Week. We'll see you then.